Bremen town musicians. When a donkey got too old for the heavy work at the miller, he decided to run away to become a town musician in Bremen. After walking for a while, he came across a dog, a cat, and a rooster. "Why do you look so sad?" asked the donkey. "Alas," said the dog, "now that I am old, I am no use in hunting for my master anymore."
"And I am too old to catch mice,"
lamented the cat. "And they'll put me in the soup tomorrow," the rooster crowed nervously. "You know what?" said the donkey. "Come with me, we can play together as a band." And the four of them continued on their journey. That evening, tired of walking and hungry, they came across a small house. Through the window, they saw a band of wicked thieves feasting on a festive meal. The animals' mouths watered.
"I know what to do,"
said the cat, and they followed his plan. The rooster flew on the cat's back, the cat climbed on the dog, and the dog stood on top of the donkey. Then they started braying, barking, meowing, and crowing with a hellish racket, and they rushed through the window. The thieves were shocked. They thought it was a 14-legged, winged, screeching, and clucking monster. They fled into the forest in great fear. The four travelers then ate the feast as if they had not been fed for weeks. Their new band had already earned them their first meal.
StoryZoo, peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
This story is about the cricket and the ant. Once upon a time, there were an ant and cricket. In the summer, the ant worked hard, just like all the other ants. He carried grasses, grains, and seeds all day long. That's how it went, even though it was sometimes incredibly hot under the scorching sun. The cricket didn't like to work very much, but he loved music. Every day he played on his cello for hours. Because he had such long arms, they could serve as an excellent violin bow to play this beautiful instrument, and he played quite well. Although he had never had lessons, he got the most beautiful melodies out of his cello, and the forest animals loved it. But after the warm summer came a harsh autumn and an even colder winter. The cricket thought it was too cold to play his cello, but he also had nothing to eat. He was now so hungry. The ant had saved food all summer and had everything he needed to survive winter. He could eat until his tummy was full every day. "Oh, ant," said the cricket, "could you spare a little food for me?" Surprised, the ant replied, "Didn't you collect any food for the winter at all during the summer?" "No," said the cricket, "I made music. Didn't you think it was beautiful too?" The ant thought for a moment and then said, "Yes, it was. For bringing such happiness, you also deserve some food." The ant shared his food with the cricket that winter, and they were both happy.
StoryZoo, peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
This is a story about King Midas from ancient Greece. On a sultry summer day, King Midas was walking through the mountains. It was buzzing with life animals all around him. Suddenly he heard a lovely harmonious sound. It was the god Pan, with his goat's feet, playing on his flute made of reeds. "Wow, that's beautiful!" Midas exclaimed. "You know what?" said Pan. "I can do even better. I bet I can play better than Apollo." "Better than the god of music and poetry," Midas said in surprise. And no sooner had he said it, Apollo appeared in their midst. "No one plays better than me," Apollo bellowed. "Listen to how I play." Apollo strummed celestial sounds on his ivory lyre, and the whole forest listened intently. Well, muttered King Midas. "No, I like Pan's song better." Apollo was furious. How can someone undervalue his talent so much? In a quick movement, he pulled on Midas's ear, stretching them into donkey ears. And from that day on, King Midas shamefully hid his donkey ears.
Zoo, StoryZoo. Peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
Today, I'll tell you the story of the Chinese Nightingale. Once upon a time, in China, the emperor lived in a large palace with a beautiful garden. Every evening at dusk, the nightingale would sing his wonderful song to the emperor. Then one day, the emperor received a gift. "What a beautiful wind-up bird!" exclaimed the emperor. "He sings as beautifully as the nightingale, and this one is made of gold and rubies, much nicer than the boring little brown bird in the tree." From that moment on, the emperor only listened to the wind-up bird. The real nightingale became very sad, flew away, and was never seen again. After a year, the wind-up bird broke down. The emperor missed the singing so much that he got very ill. "The emperor will not live long," whispered the palace staff at his bedside. "Look how pale he is." Suddenly, through the open door, a beautiful sound could be heard. It was the little brown nightingale. It was back. The palace staff was amazed to see a tear roll down the emperor's cheek and how he quickly regained a healthy color. From that moment on, the emperor fully recovered and rejoiced in listening to the real nightingale every evening.
Zoo, StoryZoo. Peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
This Greek myth is about a harper called Orpheus and his beloved Eurydice, who died of a snake bite. Overwhelmed with grief, Orpheus descended into the land of the dead to search for her. There he found Hades, the god of the underworld, sitting on his throne. "I beg you," sang Orpheus, "give me back my beloved Eurydice. I can't live without her." Awakened by his singing, the ghost of Eurydice appeared, and they embraced so passionately that Hades agreed. "Never have I seen a living human enter the underworld. Never have I seen so much love. I give you life, but on one condition. You must not look back until you have left the underworld." So the lovers set off, but almost at the gate, Orpheus began to doubt. He hadn't heard footsteps behind him in a while. Had Eurydice followed him? He couldn't help himself and looked around. There was Eurydice right behind him, but now her shadow was drawn back into the underworld. Deeply saddened, Orpheus traveled the world, playing his sad songs on his harp. People and animals admired him, but he only became truly happy when he died and was reunited with his beloved Eurydice.
Zoo, StoryZoo. Peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
This is a story of the Aztecs about how music came into the world. The supreme god Tezcatlipoca looked satisfied at his work. Together with the other gods, he had just created the earth. "What a masterpiece," he thought. But something is missing. He listened closely. Music! There's no music! He put on his loudest godly voice and shouted, "Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent, god of the winds, come here, I need you." And right away, Quetzalcoatl flew in, with his scaly snake body surrounded by beautiful colored feathers. "What do you want?" grumbled the god of the wind. "To complete our masterpiece, we need music," said Tezcatlipoca. "Go to the sun and fetch the musicians." Quetzalcoatl spluttered a little, but went on his way. Higher and higher he flew until he came to the house of the sun, which was filled with light, songs, and heavenly trumpets. There, Quetzalcoatl wrapped his serpent body around the musicians and took them all with him. Once on Earth, the musicians looked around in amazement. It was so much nicer here than they had expected. So colorful, so beautiful with its forests, rivers, mountains, and animals. Delighted with joy, they started to make music. And while making music, they wandered all over the world. They taught people how to make instruments. They taught birds how to sing, the rivers to murmur, and the trees to rustle.
StoryZoo, StoryZoo, peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
Do you know the famous story about the Pied Piper of Hamelin and his magic flute? It's a very old story from hundreds of years ago. There was a man called the Pied Piper who made a deal with the people of the town called Hamelin to get rid of their rats. He had a magic flute, and when he played a certain melody, all the rats came out of their hiding and they followed him out of town. But when the Pied Piper returned after completing his job, the nobleman didn't want to pay him. "Ha! Anyone can play a flute, we're not paying for this." And they shut the door in his face. Being very unhappy about this, he used his magic flute to make all the children follow him out of town, far away into the mountains. But don't worry, the noblemen now realized they had made a mistake and that the Pied Piper really had magic talent. When he was paid his fair share, the Pied Piper returned all the children safely to their families.
StoryZoo, StoryZoo, peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
The Tin Soldier. Once upon a time, there was a boy who was giving 25 tin soldiers on his birthday. One of the soldiers was missing a leg because the tin had run out when he was being cast. That little soldier was the drummer, who always proudly beat his drum when the tin army went into battle. There was also a dancer in the boys' playroom. She would twirl around and around on one leg to the music. "How beautiful is she," thought the little soldier. "Just like me, she only has one leg. Oh, how I'd love to marry her." He never realized that her other leg was just hidden behind her white skirt. One day, the little drummer was lying on the windowsill by the open window. Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. The little drummer blew out right into the well, and he floated through the sewers out into the sea where a large cod gobbled him up. Now, it so happens that the boy's father caught the cod while fishing. When he cleaned the fish for baking, he discovered the little tin drummer in the cod's stomach. He brought him back to the playroom. The dancer was so happy to see the tin soldier that she smiled at him even more than before. "Now we shall soon be married," said the tin soldier. And that's what happened.
StoryZoo, peekaboo, boo!
This is a scary story from France called The Adventure of the Musician. There was an old musician who played his violin at all the parties and fairs in the region that he lived. And every night he would return home to his village through the great forest. One night, though, when the moon shone bright, the musician suddenly heard a noise from the forest behind him. When he looked back, he saw a huge wolf about to pounce on him. His first thought was to run, but with his old stiff legs, he would never be fast enough. He felt that his last hour had come and he decided to play one more tune on his beloved violin. He thought that the wolf would strike at any moment, but it didn't. The wolf just stood still, ears pricked up, and listened to the music. Lured by the lovely melody, new spectators gradually appeared from the darkness. They were hundreds of small and large spirits of the forest who listened intently to the unknown sounds of the violin. They danced happily, and one of the forest spirits jumped on top of the wolf and made him dance too. To thank the musician for his beautiful music, the forest spirits gave him a few gold or silver pieces. The old musician lived happily ever after on that money, but would still often go back and make the nocturnal folk dance to the music of his wonderful violin.
StoryZoo, StoryZoo, peekaboo, peekaboo, boo!
This story is about the fox and the raven. Once upon a time, there was a raven. Through an open window of a house, he saw a table full of the most delicious food. He didn't hesitate for a moment, flew in and grabbed a large piece of meat. With the meat in his beak, he flew back to the forest and sat on the tree branch. At the foot of the tree stood a fox. He looked at the raven with a tender piece of meat in his beak. How jealous he was! The raven looked down mockingly at the fox. He thought the fox was a simple animal that couldn't even fly. The fox came up with a plan. He spoke in a soft voice. "What beauty do I see there? What beautiful wings, so beautiful and strong." "That fox has good taste," thought the raven, holding on tight to his piece of meat. Then the fox muttered, "If only he could sing like the nightingale, but with such beauty he probably can't sing at all. What a pity." The cocky young raven had to show the fox that his voice was as beautiful as he looked. He opened his mouth as wide as possible. "Caw, caw, caw!" He croaked with a horrible sound. The tender piece of meat fell to the ground and the fox ran away with it. "Caw! Give me back my meat, you wicked thief!" cried the raven angrily. But the fox never returned.